This is going to absolutely crush the normal everyday Americans, middle class retirement, unless you know the game so you can't be played. And that's what I'm going to break down in today's video. My name is Coach JV. I want to share with you guys what I do is to work to make complex macro and microeconomic strategies very simple so the normal everyday person like me and you can implement this. And remember, as you look this way, there's a whole nother narrative going on this way. And on every video I'm going to share with you, I have two free resources for you to help you out to get the rewired foundation so you can end up in a different situation. So if you click the description of this video, number one is a free 16-page guide, absolutely free, on exactly how I built my blueprint to financial freedom. Number two, you're going to see a free one-on-one with my licensed insurance team around wealth protection. We teach people how to insure their wealth. The banks teach you how to insure your life as they take your money and insure the wealth. Okay, it's very important. It's called the Infinity Banking Concept, tax code 7702. It's one of the biggest pillars of my wealth strategy where I share with people. I'm a licensed agent. I have licensed agents in all 50 states where we have a free conversation with you to show you how we secure, compound, and grow our wealth in these volatile markets. So let's dive into that. It's very important to understand what is actually happening. They're not going to teach you this in economics. They're not going to teach you this in school, but you have to understand the war narrative and how economics change. After war, there's usually a big economic boom. There's usually a change in social geopolitical structures or standards. There's usually new government organizations, like in 1940s, the IMF was created after World War II. Okay. Then there's usually some type of new change in a monetary system, which we're heading to blockchain technology, on-demand liquidity, cryptocurrency, and real-time payments. So the strategy is always going to be talked about at the back end of this video. I'm going to share with you exactly what I'm doing. I'm not going to bullshit you guys. I don't know if it'll work for you, but it's worked for me and over 7,000 warriors worldwide. We do the opposite of the 99%. Jim Rohn said you can give $1 million to every single person in society. Do you realize it's going to end up in the same people's hands, the same 1%? Because if you don't rewire the foundation, no matter how much money you make in crypto, you're going to end up in the same situation. So what I'm going to break down today is not that exciting, but when you learn to understand the boring stuff, that's where wealth is built. Now, let me be very clear. I'm the richest man in the world. The reason why is my relationship with God and following the life of Jesus and the amazing human beings I have around me. I don't let anything outside of me fear me or FUD me out of my relationship with God. So I want to be very clear with that. Money is just a byproduct of the frequency and energy that I hold on a daily basis. And that's made me financially free, spiritually free, great relationships with my families, my kids, and building a massive ecosystem. And I want to help you as well. That's my only goal here, is to help all of you go on this journey with me. Okay, so yesterday this happened. And I usually report news about a day after, it's like usually breaking. But the reason why is because I like to digest things so that I can properly articulate it. Do I always get it right? Absolutely not. But the concept that I'm trying to share with you is wartime economics. Okay, so yesterday we saw stocks. Stocks are a little change Monday as 10-year treasury yield dips back below the 5%. Okay, so what happened is the treasury, so let's back up a moment. So in beginning of 2023, the bond yields inverted. Okay. So they had so much money printed into the system at low interest rates for a very, very long time. The 10-year treasury bond inverted on the beginning of 2023 as we started to go into bank bail-ins. Now, remember how quickly things have changed? Do you remember about the bank bail-ins, guys? Hawaii and then boom, Israel. So we're moving from narrative to narrative to narrative. But what's happening is we're going into World War III and people are going into what's called a flight to safety. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to explain to you what happened, right? The treasury bond went up. That means people are coming in more into cash. And a treasury is, and I'm actually going to show you a video where the guy explains it very well, a 4-minute video. Okay. So basically people are flying back to cash. People are trying to get out of the capital markets. They're getting into bonds, more safer assets. That's why I use insurance. I'm sorry. I'm not using a treasury bond, guys. I'm not trusting a government that is 120% debt to income ratio. That's to borrow money. That's like going to a broke uncle that's borrowing money from his mom and giving them money alone and him giving you, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to borrow money from somebody who doesn't have money. You see what I'm saying? Or I'm not going to lend money and have them pay me back in interest because it's like a Ponzi scheme. They're borrowing it from someone else to pay you back. I put mine into insurance. That's what I do. So what happened is stock slide after 10-year treasury yield briefly tops 5%. So what does that mean? It means that people are pulling out of the capital markets because of the wartime narrative. uncertainty in economics, and they're pulling into things like bonds, which has always been deemed as one of the safest investments, back into cash. And crazy enough, Bitcoin's at 34,000 today. I don't know if it's because Larry Fink said that cryptocurrency is now a flight to safety. How crazy is that? How much it's changed. The thing that you believed in, the thing that you stuck with, congratulations, is now Larry Fink is saying it's a flight to safety. So congratulations to you and your family. So Bill Hickman covers bet against Treasury, says too much risk in the world to bet against bonds. Perishing Bill Square Ackman revealed Monday he covered his bet against long-term Treasuries. The hedge fund manager believes investors may increasingly buy bonds as a safe haven because of growing geopolitical risk. That's the line I wanted you to hear. Because of the growing geopolitical risk with Russia and China coming together, China saying they're going to invade Taiwan. We're going to defend Taiwan. We defended Ukraine when Russia invaded Ukraine. And now Israel is under attack, right? And America is going to defend Israel, guys. We're going into World War III because all Russia, China, America, all the economies are screwed. They're all over leveraged. So when they're over leveraged, we go to war, and then we go into a brand new world after war. It's an exact cycle every single time. So I'm going to show you this video really quickly. It's about a 4-minute video because I want you to understand the boring stuff, what a bond actually is, so you know why it matters. And then I'm going to show you Ray Dalio's Changing World Order.
Investors keep an eye on a lot of numbers, but the yield on the 10-year Treasury note is one of the most closely watched. Why does such a seemingly plain Jane government bond garner so much attention? Because it can tell you quite a lot about the broader economy and even impact other financial markets. Let's start by discussing what the 10-year Treasury note is. The 10-year Treasury note is a type of bond issued by the U.S. federal government to fund itself. Treasuries are a loan investment, which means investors loan money to the U.S. government for a set period of time in exchange for a defined rate of return, known as yield. The length of time of the loan investment is known as the maturity. Once an investor purchases a Treasury bond, the investor receives regularly scheduled payments until the bond.
So think about this for just a moment. That's what I want. One thing I wanted you to hear. So you're giving a loan to the government. You're giving them your taxes to pay the interest on the debt. Like, I don't know, man. It doesn't sound like a flight to safety to me.
Matures. At maturity, the government pays back the full amount or principal that was originally invested. Treasuries are classified into 3 types based on their length of maturity. Bills have a maturity of less than a year. Notes have a maturity of 1 to 10 years. And bonds have a maturity greater than 10 years. Typically, the longer the maturity, the higher the yield. At the simplest level, the yield on the 10-year Treasury is the rate of return an investor would expect when purchasing 10-year Treasuries. But to understand why that rate is important, you need to understand how yield is determined for Treasuries.
So the reason why I want you to pay attention to this, because pay attention to the bond markets. That's kind of gives you indication where we're going. So that it shot up to 5%. The markets panicked a little bit because it shows that people are going to flight to safety. Now remember, a lot of your companies, guys, are on the S&P. A lot of them are starting to lose money. Everybody's over leveraged. There's no money in the system. So we have to start to secure ourselves. The cool thing is we have the game plan. So we're kind of walking on a tightrope right now. I'll share with you guys at the end what I'm doing. I'm going to just play a little bit more of this and I'll break down exactly what I'm doing.
Yield is driven by supply and demand. When times are tough and there's volatility in the stock market, investors often choose to move more money toward Treasury bonds because they're relatively safer than stocks. Treasuries are considered one of the safest investments in the world because they're backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. This flight to safety pushes the price of those bonds up because investors are willing to pay more for the smaller yield.
Yeah, he just said full faith and trust in the credit of the government.
The economy is doing well and there tends to be less demand for the 10-year Treasury note or bonds in general, the opposite is true. Prices go down and as a result, yields go up, attracting investors back to the bond market. Though in such a scenario, investors may be less interested in bonds because of the higher potential return in stocks.
Okay, so we'll stop it there. I just want to, it's boring information from that point on, which this stuff is not boring to me. But so basically what happened yesterday, just in a simplistic term, right? It peaked over 5%, showing that people are going to a flight to safety. Cryptocurrency is booming right now. I feel like it's still going to pull back, guys. I think they're pumping their profits. They're going to pull back. So this is exactly what I'm doing. So right now I've been dollar cost averaging, since the bear market started last year. I've been dollar cost averaging every Friday. Okay. If I was to start over today, I would stick with just like 5 or 6 fundamental cryptos that you think are gonna be here for the long term. Some examples, not financial advice, is XRP. We know it's the only one with regulatory clarity. We know Bitcoin is deemed a commodity by the CFTC. You can look it up. Okay. So you have those two right there. One is a store of value, and the other one is a movement of value, a currency, right? XRP. Then you have XLM, which is more consumer based, right? Then you have things like HBAR, you have QNT, you have Ethereum, which is a foundation, the ethereal body, the Ethereum, right? So those are just a few that gives you an example, but you don't risk and cash out your 401k to go into crypto. Create earned income by either lowering expenses or increasing your ability to earn income and get into these very speculative markets. Now that they're very speculative, that's my first strategy. Now, I'm not telling you what to do. This is what I do. Okay. Then what I did over the past 4 years is I've used these very speculative markets to pull profits. And I put mine into, this is what works for me. I don't know, work for you, Index Universal Life. You can set up a free appointment. I referred for over 3 years before I ever became licensed. And I decided to become licensed because I wanted to help people all over the world experience what I'm experiencing now, which is what I'm about to build in the next 5 years, which will be a family office through insurance. My family's kids will be wealthy. So as people are trying to chase money, my money is compounding. I can also go borrow against my own bank. It goes a lot deeper. That's why, you have Index Universal Life, you have FIA, annuities, you have term as well. Insurance is how the wealthy secure their wealth and guarantee their principal, especially in volatile times. Then for me, business is one of the ways that I increase my earned income on a quarterly basis. I have multiple companies. I continue to build companies that are in information technology and attention or education. Okay. Then precious metals. I'm focusing on silver right now. For borrowability, I'll be getting into gold next year. Then we're going into real estate. We as a group, we have our Open Warrior Academy. We have our Gen Shifter, our private coaching clients. And you can apply for my private coaching down below. We do what's called 506Bs. We've launched 2 506Bs in our lifetime. And now we're going to go into more, where we're going to go into apartment complexes, surrounding ourselves with experts that have that field of expertise. It's not mine. I'm not interested in real estate, but I do need the tax depreciation. And crypto, business, insurance. And lastly, for me, is self-development, my relationship with God, which makes me the richest man in the world. That is my number one thing that I focus on. I have principles. For business, it's integrity, honesty, and uncompromising belief in God. For my family, it's peace, freedom, and family structure. It's pretty simple. It's not that complicated. And I get my shit together on a daily basis. I focus on loving God with all my heart, loving humanity as I love God. I pull the log out of my eye before pulling the straw of others, and I treat others as I want to be treated. It's not that complex. But here's the good news about all this craziness going on in the world. It is absolutely the greatest time in human history to shift your family's timeline. I'll give you an example. There's a young man, and I won't mention his name, but he knows who he is, and I want to get permission first. He came to my insurance conference this weekend, and he's part of my ecosystem and part of my insurance team. This young man is 21 years old. He already has close to 6 figures invested in cryptocurrency, and he has almost 1,500 a month going into his IUL policy. Do you realize that this young man at 21 years old will be richer and more? He's not going to college. He's not becoming a doctor or a lawyer. He's been following me since 2020, and he buckled down. And since 2020 has almost 6 figures invested in cryptocurrency. He has a very strict game plan. And now he's putting $1,500 a month at 21 years old into his insurance policy. Do you realize what that young man's life is going to look like in the future? He will not have to clock in, clock out. He will not have to rely on anybody. By the time this young man is 30 years old, I guarantee he will be a multi-millionaire. It doesn't matter if you're 21 or you're 48 like me. It's never too late to activate. Now, the strategy is very different based on your age, right? Someone who's 48 years old that comes to me for an insurance conversation, or with my team with insurance conversation. If you're 48 years old and most people don't know the retirement number, right? Guys, $1 million is not enough money to retire. Do you realize that? $1 million with inflation. And do you realize we're at the lowest tax rate in a very long time? It feels like a lot. This is a very low tax rate. You have your money going into a 401k. That money is going to be, you think taxes are going to go up or go down based on what's happening in the economy? You think they're going to go up or go down they're definitely going up. And now you're going to have to get taxed on the back end. You need to understand how to reverse that through insurance. Okay. Insurance is not retirement, but it's the ability to borrow from your policy at your retirement age to get tax-free money. Okay. You got to flip the brain. You got to understand, stop listening to all these naysayers and everybody saying all this stuff. Usually people who are the most skeptical, the fact is, this is truth, guys. The most skeptical people are usually the most broke, and the people complaining the most are doing the least. They complain because they're deferring the fact that they're not put in the work, and they're always skeptical of everything. But then when you ask them what their retirement plan is or what they have set up for their family, well, I'm clocking in, clocking out. Life is no, life is not tough. Life is amazing. Life is powerful. Life is strong. Life is worthy. I am great. I am abundant. I can do whatever I want. I can think. I can walk. I can talk. I can act. So that's my game plan. I don't know if it'll work for you, but it's worked for me and thousands of people. And like I said, at least we have a game plan. A game plan is better than no game plan. Most people, I would say at least 90% of the people I meet with, and this is not a judgment. This is a good gut check for all of us. I say, what is your retirement number? I don't know. Some people are in their 50s, some people are 55, some people are 60, some people are 30. I don't know. That's a problem. The reason why is it's not your fault. They indoctrinated you to think that way, guys. They indoctrinated you to think that way. They told you to go to school, get a job, get a 401k. You have some HR manager that gets your 401k set up, and you just trust that your $300 a month and your match that they put in. Do your research why they match, and why wouldn't they do a pension versus that? The guy who created the 401k is quoted saying, I'm paraphrasing, saying that he created a product that makes Wall Street wealthier in 1978. That's what he was quoted saying. Think about that, guys. The 401k is not a wealth builder. It is not making people rich. It is actually making people very, very poor. And so the question I have for you, what is your retirement number? When will you retire? Or are you going to retire? But the great news is, in these economic times that look really hairy and really ugly, builds more millionaires, more billionaires, and some trillionaires than in history. But in the process of becoming a billionaire, what's more important is who you become in that process. So like I said, description of this video, in my social media platform, I have tons of free resources for you. It's time to get your shit together. Warriors, rise, let's go.